I'm Harrison.
And I'm Ameer, and we believe that one of life's most valuable assets is the gift of conversation.
In the midst of life, sometimes we forget the true power of a deep, meaningful conversation.
So take a breath, come join us,
and let's talk about life. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Let's Talk About Life podcast. My name is Harrison King, and it's a special episode. We're back for season 3. We took a little break, and we're back, and I'm happy to be back. And we've got a special guest, and not just a guest, a potential co-host. We're kind of trying something out, and I hope it sticks, and I think it's going to be great, and I think you're going to love it. I want to introduce a good friend of mine, Ameer Corro, to the podcast. We're going to do some episodes. We're going to start off first season here today, having a chat together, and hopefully, if you guys like it, and we like it, and I think we will, we're going to keep chatting, the two of us. So, Ameer, why don't you let the people know who you are, what are you up to, and who are you?
Okay, thanks, Nardwar. What's up, everybody? My name is Ameer Corro. I create content. I'm a musician, artist, all that kind of stuff. Harrison is one of my great friends, and I'm so happy that he asked me to be on the show. Thank you, dude. I love talking about life. I love talking about deep topics. I love, music, creativity, and ultimately, coming to figure out what it means to live a good life, which is actually what we're here to talk about today.
That's right. We're chatting about how to live a good life. So let's start. Actually, I want to say before we start, I want to just quickly explain how we met, because I think the internet is a great thing. It's how all the listeners, how you're hearing this right now, right? But Ameer and I we have actually met in person now, but we hadn't for like months, and we connected through Instagram, through my girlfriend, and this whole thing happened. So the internet is a great place. You can make new friends there's no way we're from across the country, and now we're like really good friends. So I would just encourage you to, try to make new friends on the internet, because it's a good thing in a good way, not in a scary way. Anyway, how to live a good life. Ameer, I'm going to let you start.
Straight into it. This is something I've been thinking about a lot for my entire life, essentially. And I think it's twofold. I think there's both an internal aspect to it, but then also the external aspect. There's also there's the vertical part of it, and then there's also the horizontal part of it. How deep do you want me to go into it?
Well, let's just start with one then. I think that is a good start. There is there's obviously two parts of it, but let's start with the external, and we'll go in, because I think that's what obviously people see first, if you're, when you're analyzing others and getting to know people. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah. So I think what it means to live a good life on the external dimension is to take responsibility, for your life, to be responsible for your health, to be responsible for your relationships, to be responsible for who you show up as and your attitude in any given situation. It's like, have you ever read Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl?
Most of the books that you've read, I haven't read, just so you know.
Gotcha. Cool. Well, kind of my thoughts on this are a synthesis of all those different books and different thought leaders and stuff. But basically, Viktor Frankl, he was a German Jewish, I believe German Jewish psychologist and doctor who was around during World War II, and he actually got sent to the concentration camps.
Oh, wow.
All of his family basically perished in the camps and stuff. But then he came out of it. He escaped, and he came out of it on the other side, and he wrote this amazing book called Man's Search for Meaning. It's basically like the entire thesis of it is that the meaning of life and what it means to live a good life is to take responsibility for your life, no matter what the situation is. Like, that was the thing that he noticed. Like, in the camps, there were the people who would just give up.
Yeah.
And, they just wither away. And then there were the people who would actually, take responsibility for what they could and still live and fight on. And they still felt that they had meaning. And I think that's, at the crux of what it means to live a good life on the external level, to take responsibility.
When you're saying to take responsibility, are you meaning like kind of take life in your own hands? That's kind of what you're trying to say, hey, a little bit. I mean, there's different aspects of it, but
to focus on what you can control, And there's this amazing quote from the book. Everything can be taken away from somebody. I'm paraphrasing here. Everything can be taken away from somebody except one's ability to choose one's attitude in any given situation.
Right.
Right. And he like expressed that in the camps and everything. Like they took away everything,
Mm-hmm.
like literally everything, even their names, but they can't take away, the attitude with which you choose to encounter something.
Of course. Isn't that more of an
Yeah.
internal thing though?
I'd say there's another even deeper internal level in kind of my paradigm of seeing it. But I think on the external life, like taking that responsibility for your attitude, for what you do, I think everything ripples outwards,
Mm-hmm.
from there. What do you
Yeah.
think?
Yeah, I don't know. When you say external, I think like actions to others kind of
Mm,
thing. That's what I first comes to mind when you say that. I totally hear what you're saying. I agree. I would say, I mean, it's got to start with love and kindness, I think, which can be an internal thing. Obviously, we can talk about that, but externally, like, at least it seems like even most religions, although they're all different, it seems to be the core thing is like be a good person, be a nice, kind, loving person. And I think that not only helps others and humanity and helps us get through things together, but it also is, it obviously helps you have a sense of purpose and feel like you're doing the right thing, and it can elevate. I mean, there's I don't know them off the top of my head, but there's studies that proven, like when you do other things for other people, it reflects in a positive way on your life, right? So that's what I thought when you said external.
yeah, no, I completely agree. Like love and kindness, I think that's definitely another big aspect of it on the external level. I think, like we're thinking through it and we're figuring it out like as we talk. I think like it's threefold. I think there's love, there's responsibility, and actually, yeah, no, I think it's twofold. There's love, how you treat others, and how you treat yourself. I think
Hmm.
responsibility and love are the two main things I would say.
And I think that's a big thing that I'm learning, and it's kind of my focus this year. I don't know if we talked about this or not, but I'm very hard on myself, as most people are. A
Mhm.
lot of people, you hear them say, "Oh, I'm so hard." Yeah, there you go. Puts his hand
Yeah.
up.
Mhm.
And um, I think living a good life, or to improve your life, you've got to be kind to yourself. You've got to learn how to love
Mhm.
yourself, and it's such a talked about thing. But I still don't genuinely understand it, because it's like it's easy to love somebody else. You know what I mean? It's easy to care about
Mhm.
somebody else, but when you're with yourself all the time and everything about you and all this, it's easy to just push that aside. So I think, I mean, you could argue that starting to love yourself would help you love others better, obviously, right? Like, so you kind of have to start within. Do you think you have to start within in this whole live a good life thing? Do you have to start within and then it, leaks outward, or?
Definitely. I so hear you, dude. Ugh, I so hear you. I think the being hard on yourself bit, I think everyone watching can probably relate. And myself definitely for sure. But I definitely think, it starts within. Like there's this one saying, it's so cliche and so trite, but you can't change the fruit without changing the root. It starts from within. Everything that
Right.
happens kind of in your life on the external level is a result, of that internal part and being kind to yourself. It's hard to truly fully love others, not in like a self-sacrificial way, but to like genuinely love others out of like your own abundance when your own well is empty, you know?
Right, right,
And
right.
I think like having the practices to make sure that your own well is full, I think is especially important. What are some practices would you say that help you keep that well full even, as you're working to be kinder to yourself?
Yeah. Before I do, I will answer that question, but it
Mhm.
just makes me think it's exactly the same thing. But I really like this analogy. Somebody said, if you're trying to help others, think of yourself as like an ambulance, right? You're trying to take somebody
Mm.
from where they are to where they need to get better. And if you call an ambulance and it has no gas, it's not going to get you to you can't
Mhm.
take somebody, so you have to give yourself that gas. It's exactly the same thing. I just like that analogy. Things that I do, meditation is the big one that I found. And I've been doing it, for several years now, and consistently almost every day for a year, which has been fabulous. Um, and it really helps me get the time for myself, because people don't do that. I wasn't doing. It's so easy to go and do other things for other people, and maybe even if it is for yourself, but you're not having that solitude to think about things and reflect. The reflection, I guess, is what I'm trying to get to here. So that can be through journaling or that, or even for me, like going for a walk. And I've been doing this, like, I guess it's a form of journaling, but just like an audio journal. I just put on my AirPods or something and push record on voice memo, and I just pretend like this, like I'm talking to somebody or
Mhm.
or somebody, and just explaining. Do you ever do that?
I do the same. Dude, I feel like
We're
we're complete twins. Right. I want to tell everyone
yeah,
watching, by the way,
true.
and everyone listening. I hope you know, like, Harrison is like my brother from another mother. He
It's
is like
scary.
my twin. I know.
It's
Copy
scary.
paste in a different font.
We are so many things we talk about that are like we're so identical, and a little
Mhm.
intricacy. What's the word? Intricacies? Is that the word?
Yeah. Mhm.
Um. Anyway, there's also things that were very different. Like we were very different
Mhm.
in some ways, which is why it's exciting. But anyway,
Mhm.
that's it. This is a self reflection, I think. How about you?
Mhm.
Probably same, eh?
Yeah, I'd say like the things that keep my well full, meditation is the big one.
Yeah.
For sure. Like for me, the way I approach meditation isn't so much of a, how do I say, it isn't so much of a daily regimented practice kind of thing. Like I will do this every single day kind of thing, or it's not necessarily like I approach it as a habit, but I approach meditation more so as a way of life.
Yeah.
Kind of like everything can be a meditation if you bring your full focus and your full awareness to it. Like even this right now, if we're just fully
Right.
in it, right? This can
Yeah.
be a meditation. And I think, when for myself personally, like living the meditation, it's like your well is always perpetually full.
Mm,
And I think it's a beautiful place to be at.
that's really interesting. Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm not there. I'll be
Mm.
honest with you. But I do notice that it does seep into my everyday life, and I try to think of things like that. It's clear you're better at that than I am, so I have a lot to learn from that. But it's
It's
a
just
good,
different processes.
totally, but it's a
I
good way to approach it.
Yeah.
I think that's great. That's really interesting. So
Hmm.
I have a question about this
Hmm.
whole. We're talking about what does it mean to live a good life, or what is
Hmm.
that? Is that even a um like, is there a set? There's nothing set in stone about that. It's all subjective, technically. You know what I mean? I guess
Hmm.
you could say that, philosophers and things, people for ages have talked about things and there's similarities in that kind of way, but there's not really a one good way to live life, right?
Hmm.
What do you think?
Hmm. Yeah, I completely agree. As I said, like with the responsibility aspect, I think the responsibility is on each of us as individuals to find what it means for ourselves, to live a good
Ah,
life. Like you are responsible for figuring that out. No philosopher can give that to you. You can read all the books, but ultimately, like if you if you're just parroting, what they say, then you ultimately haven't found it or understood it for yourself. You've memorized what they've said, but
right.
not understood that. But yeah, I think the onus is definitely on us to live a good life. And I think, as you said, it's subjective. It's actually, now that I think about it, living a good life is subjective on the activity level, like what specifically you do, but on
Right.
the internal principle level and the values, I think it's universal. Like as you said, like loving other people, that's universal across like
Right.
almost all religions, right? Almost
Right.
all kind of philosophies and worldviews and everything. That baseline of love and kindness, of of service, of contribution. I think contribution is also one of the big keys to it.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah. And it's like you said, I think, different strokes for different folks. Like as similar as we are, right, we also have the different ways that we
Of course.
approach life, and like what means a good life, what a good life looks like to you, could be different for me. And that's also one of the reasons why I respect you so much, the fact that you have the willingness, to go figure that out yourself.
Yeah, well then, the way thank you, by the way.
Mhm.
I I think when you're saying that, I'm thinking then that living a good life is, you say it's not about the activities and stuff can be different, but then in that sense, it's an explorative practice. You have to go explore things to figure out what that is. So
Mhm.
maybe that's also at the root of it. You need to be able to explore, because there's people that, and I'm not calling anybody out, but it's, it's in this society, it's so easy for people to get into a job or something and then just be stagnant for like years. You know what I mean? And in that sense, it's like if you were to go back to this to try to live a quote unquote good life, start exploring again, you probably will find your way there. So maybe it's a little bit of a roadmap. It's just like you have to try things and explore, and then you'll start to find your way, right?
Definitely. A question for you. I think, the entire conversation of what does it mean to live a good life is kind of predicated upon, what do you think the meaning of life is? So what would you
This
say,
guy,
Harrison? What do you think is the
he's
meaning of
coming
life?
out strong.
Yeah, straight to it. That's what we're about. Is
I
let's
know,
talk about
I
life,
know. I know, it's good. We're hitting the topics here, the main topic. For me, or just in general, or I guess those should be the same thing. I am not 100% sure off the top of my head. I think that it's to feel fulfilled in whatever way that comes, to you. Living, feeding into your purpose, which is whatever that is, which you find through exploring, trying different things. Whatever makes you feel good and happy, and that sense of we've all done something where we're like, this is just like, I'm high on life. Yeah, I'm just so happy, even if it was for a couple minutes. You did something, and everybody's had a different experience, but there's got to be something that you've done and you're just like, life is so great. To me, it's like, how can I achieve that feeling for as long as possible? Which, like you're saying, you can, treat life as like a meditative practice all the time. You're kind of almost in that state, that kind of thing. And obviously there's going to be ups and downs. So I know that, but I just think it's like we as humans are capable of such incredible things, and feeling such incredible things. And the world is just huge, and there's so many cool things and people, and just, to me, actually, as I'm figuring this out as I'm telling you, as you can tell, but for me, it's like I wanna do as much as I can while I'm here, not in a like rushed sense, but just like I'm only here for however long I'm here. I want to meet as many cool people as possible, maybe as many mean people as possible. I want to do everything. You know what I mean? Because we're here and we have this opportunity. Neither you are, we may have different ideas, but you and I don't know what happens after we die, right? So I do know that I have X number of years until I will not be on this planet anymore. I want to do as many things as possible. So to me, that's what it means to live a good life, is just to be live it as full as possible, doing the things that make me feel like that kind of heaven on earth thing. There you go. That's my summary.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful, dude. Yeah, dude, that's so inspiring. You're so inspiring, honestly. That what you say is so true. Like, we have limited time, and I think that aspect and the fact that time is limited is what gives life meaning.
Yeah. Oh,
In my books, like, it's an interesting paradox. Like, the most important questions, the answers to the most important questions are always paradoxes, and in this case, I find like death is what gives life meaning. Like, we could,
yeah.
if we lived forever and had all these beautiful experiences, would they actually be meaningful, or would they just become, banal, mundane,
Right.
just boring? And I think that the temporary things are beautiful because they're temporary, right? A symphony is beautiful because, the moment passes by once. A sunset is beautiful because then it turns to night afterwards. And I think being fully in it and doing as much as you can with a limited time, I think that's so, so, so important. What would you say is like a beautiful moment where you really realized that? Like, maybe, yeah, what was a beautiful moment for you where you really realized and stepped into that?
Like what I just explained.
Yeah, totally. What was a moment for you? Story time, bro.
Yeah, I don't know if I have a specific moment, but there's just been times where I've noticed, I try to pay attention to how I'm feeling, and that kind of thing. And there's been times when I've noticed that I'm just like, I just feel so good, just so happy, and grateful maybe to be here and to be able to experience these things where I'm just like, I'll take a step back, which I would again say thanks to meditation for helping me kind of, you take a step back and go, this is what for an actual specific experience. There's times where I've talked with my grandpa. I call him Poppy, and he was the first guest on this podcast. This was kind of inspired by him, and I've had conversations with him like I've never had with anybody else. Like the feeling that I get, and I can't explain it. It's just like I feel so connected and so like my heart just feels full that I'm able to have this experience, and we're talking about whatever, and somebody that genuinely cares about what I have to say and what he has to say, and we're not maybe agreeing on everything, but we're discussing big topics, and I leave those experiences and I just feel so like nothing else. Like there's nothing else that makes me feel like that, which is again why I started this podcast, to have just these deep conversations, because I think that I know I'm not the only one, and maybe it's not everybody, but when you really are attentive and you listen to somebody and then you share your thoughts and there's this mutual respect, and you can talk about these big deep topics that's not like, hey, what did you do yesterday for dinner? Like things about like this, like meaning of life. I don't know exactly what it is, but us talking about it is giving life meaning, and I think that's it. So it's conversations, and I can't name every single one I've ever had, but there's specific deep conversations that I've had with people, and I would say there's some sort of spirituality involved in that experience, and at least on an energy level, like there's a raised frequency which can be proven. Those things make me go, I just experienced, like I want more of that, whatever that was. I don't know what it was, but I want more of that. So that's it. It's those conversations like we're having right now. To be honest, I'll leave this and I'll be like, set for the rest of the night. I'm just super, super happy. How about you though? Is there something specifically that is well, I guess you never actually answered the question. I didn't ask you. So what is it?
He's coming for me.
Yeah. What does it mean to you? And then what was the experience that kind of made you realize that?
Wow. Yeah, I just want to say, of course, I totally agree. Like, I feel so great, man. I love this.
So nice.
I love this, conversations. And I think relationship, connection is where it's at.
Yeah.
Like the limited time, that's what makes the connection beautiful. I think the fact that we're both going to die one day, I think is what makes this conversation meaningful.
That's cool.
Now, to answer the question.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about this so much.
I'm sure you have.
Oh my God, I've been thinking about this so much. So let me walk you through the
listeners. You don't know Ameer. Okay, you will get to know Ameer, but he is himself a philosopher. He probably wouldn't admit it, but he's I'm
a Twitter philosopher,
exactly.
A time philosopher.
So get ready, prepare yourself. I'm excited to hear. So yeah, let me know.
Yeah. So the interesting question, what is the meaning of life? I'm going to extrapolate answers and kind of nuggets from all the people that I've listened to, from like Naval Ravikant, do you know who Naval is?
No.
Oh, dude, y'all, if you are listening, and also, bro, oh my God, Naval is probably my new favorite thought leader. Like, I love the things that he has to say. He's awesome. Like, you should go check him out.
My favorite tennis player too. I'm just kidding. Okay, cool. How do you spell that?
Naval.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll check him out.
Yeah, so it's like a naval base, except you say his name is Naval.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm going to be pulling insights from Naval, from Viktor Frankl, from Eckhart Tolle, from Jordan B. Peterson as well. And this is kind of like my synthesis of like all their different ideas, distilled into my own worldview. So the interesting thing with the question, what is the meaning of life, is that the answer is a paradox, and it leads us to what's known as Agrippa's Trilemma, which is basically there's three. With a question like this, there are only three answers. One is the hand of God, or like an omnipowerful axiom, something like, what is the meaning of life? God. What is the meaning of life? The universe. And it kind of just shuts down the answer there. The second possibility is circular reasoning. What is the meaning of life? A. Why A? Because B. Why B? Because A. Why A? Because B, right? It
Right.
goes around in circles.
Okay.
And then the third one is infinite regression. Why do we do this? Because this. Why do we do that? Because that. Why do we do this? And it's just infinitely regressing. You can ask the question infinite times. And so what that shows me and what I've come to conclude is that the meaning of life can't be figured out by thinking about it. The meaning of life can't be figured out by thinking about it. It can only be figured out by living it.
Yeah.
And creating it daily with every action that you take. And so, right, and then we look at Viktor Frankl, who said the meaning of life is to take responsibility for your life, which I think, on the external level is, something that I definitely, really resonate with. And Jordan Peterson also says the same thing. It's like, honestly, I'm going on a little bit of a tangent here, but honestly, I think I've come to realize just over the last week how sheltered we are living in Canada, how sheltered and privileged we are. I think sometimes, like, just for perspective's sake, just to remember that there has been, am I allowed to swear on the podcast?
I try not to, but
Okay,
if
gotcha.
you really want to.
No, I won't. Yeah. I think it's important to realize that there's been some really bad things that have happened in the 20th century, right? If we look at Stalin, Hitler, Mao, and all these, and even up to this point, there's endless things to make us feel jaded about the world. And so, like Leo Tolstoy said, it's like, if you were to think about all these things, the only rational answer is to be a pessimist. The only rational answer is to give up on life and to essentially, as he said, end your life, right? But the thing is that if that's what thinking about it leads to, then thinking about it isn't very intelligent, right?
Yeah.
It could be intelligent on the surface level, but ultimately not wise, because thinking about it and coming to that conclusion ultimately leads to your own demise, ultimately leads to, a nihilistic view where you just hurt other people and don't care, those kinds of things. And so ultimately, I think the meaning of life is found by living it in the present moment. Simply put, I think the meaning of life is to be here, fully now. And I think that's the internal piece that I was mentioning, being fully present wherever you are, whether that's, sitting here having a lovely conversation, or whether you're listening, to this podcast, or whether you are in even in a concentration camp like Viktor Frankl was, right? I think being fully wherever you are, no matter what the circumstance might be, because that's ultimately on the external level. But if you're able to stay grounded in the present moment, I think that's what the meaning of life is.
I've never thought about it that way. That's really interesting. And I would
as you can say, I've been thinking about this.
Yeah. No, wow. That's awesome. I feel like we gotta like take a minute and let that sink in. That's yeah, my first reaction. I totally agree with you. And it made me think that if we're always not in search of, but if you're living life and you're learning what the meaning of life is, I guess the meaning of life would be to discover the meaning of life before you die. So like essentially by the time you're done with your time on this planet, you've done enough things and you've lived enough to, learn what it is and what it is to you at least. And then, so there you go. That's your little circle thing you're talking about.
Yeah, I think back to the meaning of life question, I think as interesting as it is, the answer to the meaning of life isn't a thought, but rather it's an action. And I think the answer is defining for yourself what is a meaningful life. I think that's what gives life meaning. And I think the temporary nature of it, like you only have this much time to figure it out for yourself, is what gives it inherently meaning,
Yeah. I think it can change.
Definitely.
I think maybe there's like a foundational kind of meaning for you. And it's like, this is what it is, but it shows up in different ways. I think it can definitely change. And there might be, again, be an underlying theme or something, but what do you think? It's gotta like modify over the course of your life because you're learning, and as you learn and grow, that perspective is going to change too, right?
Definitely. I think that's like everything in life, change is the only constant. Change is the only
Yeah.
thing that is not changing. And I think, as you grow and evolve, so does your perception of what a meaningful life is. Oh, out of curiosity, do you have a kind of life mission statement, or like a value statement that you kind of live by?
Not in a sentence like you do. I at one point did, but I haven't sat with that, and I would like to, but um, no is my answer. I have like ways I want to live life. It's just I always say I want to live life to the fullest.
Mhm.
So that's less of kind of what you're. It's pretty broad, but um, and help others feel better. Those are
Mhm.
kind of the two things that I often say a lot, uh, just in conversation and to myself. So those are, I guess, that's part of it.
Of course, yeah, that is totally valid. I think there is so that in and of itself is so profound to live life to the fullest. And for myself, right, you were asking earlier about, like, any stories or any times,
Yeah,
when I
yeah, yeah.
recognize this in particular. I think living life to the fullest for me means being fully present in it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the example of, the most beautiful sunset could be happening, but then you'll see the people who are like undoubtedly like on their phones, just like heads down,
Right.
like not really present, like just, getting distracted. Mm, Distraction is a big thing. I think saying no to distraction, being like fully focused
Mm.
on wherever you are. Like, hey, even if you're listening to this podcast, like, don't let us distract you from what's going on around you, right? If you just look around, you know, be fully wherever you are. But yeah, I think a story, for me, I'm always drawn towards sunsets.
Mm.
It just always, I just always feel so connected to life, to humanity, whenever I'm just watching a sunset, wherever that is in the world,
How
whether
about
that's
sunrises? Is there a
here.
difference?
I mean, I don't wake up that early.
Okay, okay.
I
I'm
wake up
just
at like
curious.
I wake up at like 10. But for
Okay.
me, it's like a sunset is probably one of the most like beautiful experiences for me wherever I am in the world. It's like whether I'm here in Vancouver, or whether I'm traveling, whether I'm in like Philly, whether I'm in LA, whether I'm in the Philippines. It's like something about it just draws me so fully into the present moment, and just makes me feel so connected to other
Mm.
people, right? I think what makes a sunset beautiful is the fact that it is temporary, right? It just shows up for
Yeah.
like 30 minutes and then it goes away. And so I think, once again, that temporary nature is, what makes life meaningful. So yeah, I'd say every sunset is a teacher for me. Every single
Hmm.
sunset teaches me that.
Interesting.
Mhm.
Funny enough, we went and saw a sunset last night, and I hadn't done it in
Nice.
a long time, so I would try to do more. Uh, Feeling encouraged by you. I agree. I think even nature in that sense is something
Mm.
that kind of
Mhm.
connects us. First of all,
Mhm.
because we all share the planet, regardless of you know, I don't know, financial stat, like anything. We all share the planet, and I think that it is definitely something nature if you can try to let it be a teacher itself, probably.
Mhm.
It can eh, definitely make you feel present. Like I've found that I'll go out and I'll do a workout or something outside, and I leave that feeling different than if I were to do it inside, under fluorescent lights. And
Mhm.
there's health stuff I could probably comment on this, but that's not the point right now. There's definitely connection with us and nature. We are natural beings, so that's interesting.
Yeah, that reminds me of this one thing that I heard. So I had this one client, I was recording an audiobook for him, or I was helping him record his audiobook. And he said this one thing. He's a nature photographer. He's like sponsored by Lexus and like Arcturus and stuff. Really cool guy. And basically, he said this one thing that has kind of fundamentally changed the way that I view nature and kind of our place within it. And I'm curious what your thoughts are on this.
Mhm.
Oftentimes, us as humans, we view ourselves as, we we conceptually separate ourselves from nature. There's
Yes.
human and then there is nature,
Hmm.
but this one thing that he said in the book, ultimately there is no separation. We are nature. We are just as much a part of
Correct.
nature, right, as nature is a part of us. We
Hmm.
are just, you know whether you want to believe we're evolved primates or whether you want to believe we're created, or like whatever you subscribe to, like ultimately we are part of nature. And I think viewing nature through that way, I think is just, for lack of a better word, it's good. It's helpful. I don't know. I couldn't find it. I couldn't find a better word. I think it's just helpful. It's a helpful paradigm. Like, how does nature function? Oh, it does this. Okay, apply those laws to yourself. Oh, hey, cool. Wow, I feel better. It's almost as if the universe is trying to tell us something in that regard. What do you think?
I've talked about this on here before, like from a health perspective. I had two friends of mine; they're naturopathic doctors, and as I've been learning all this stuff, I'm going to start here and then I'll kind of go off. This might be a little bit of a tangent, so I apologize in advance. But as I've been learning all this stuff about functional medicine and naturopathic medicine and just healing yourself kind of naturally, more of this stuff, which if you think that's strange when you're hearing me say that, I would highly recommend you just try to open your mind and look into it, because it's phenomenal. But we are so similar to nature, and we need it. The reason so many, that like whatever it is, 70% of Americans are obese and unhealthy, these are not things that are our fault necessarily. It's because we're in a society that is so far removed from nature. You ask the average person how many hours a day they spend outside, and it might be a walk to the car. And that's it. You know what I mean? How I've tried to, at this point, when I've learned all this stuff, and if I were to sum up my health knowledge at this point from all these teachers, it would be to pretend that you are like, I don't know, a caveman kind of thing, living in nature. You had to build your own housing out of like leaves, and you're hunting food, and like you're living as naturally as possible. You're going to go to sleep when the sun goes down because you can't see anything. You're going to wake up when the sun wakes up because it's going to wake you up. You know what I mean? And you're going to change your behavior during winter and during the summer to fall. Whether we were created or we evolved, whatever you want to think, we are meant to be one with nature. Like we are, that is our home. My current apartment it shouldn't be my home. There's even like, I don't know if you know this, there's something, you know what grounding is? You ever heard of grounding?
Never have.
So if you take off you go barefoot and the best place is by water. So like wet sand by the ocean, you go for a walk, there's a change. And I don't remember specifically what it is, but there are major health effects, benefits that come from that, just because you're being connected to the earth. It has to do with, I'm not an expert to be talking on this, so I would recommend you look it up or go back to the other episode. But it like there's a magnetic connection between, like there's an energetic, some sort of exchange when your feet are on grass or soil or something, and you're touching, even hugging a tree, legitimately touching a tree will change your biology. So you can't hear me say that and then go, oh, well, it's fine that we live inside. You know what I mean? So I get it. It's just so amazing to me. It's so amazing to me that we've gone, technology. I'm so grateful for. We're just talking about that we get to, meet each other and this, all this kind of stuff. But I just try so hard to at least try to remember, and it's hard because of the society that we live in, to remember where we came from. That where we are right now is kind of not where we should be. So that's a really long-winded, passionate answer, because I just think it's so cool that, and also sad, that we're not in that place. But in the sense of, from at least a health perspective, and then it could lead into all this other stuff we're talking about, we are connected from nature, and to feel better, we should come out of where we are stuck in our houses and go back into nature. So that's it.
That's beautiful. That's so cool. I did not know that was a thing, but like when I go outside, I feel it myself.
Yep.
Like I sometimes, like I just walk out onto my lawn like barefoot, or like I will literally hug a tree. I am that tree hugging present hippie, Like I do it just because it feels good, right?
That's why
But
it
I
feels
didn't.
good, though. There's actually something
Ah,
happening, right? Isn't that crazy?
that is so cool. Yeah. And I think, in closing, like bringing it back to like the fundamental question of what it means to live a good life, I think nature is one of those like really predominant
Mm,
aspects, right? Taking
yeah.
responsibility for your health and being a part of nature. And I think if I were to sum it up, like just based off of everything that we were talking about, I think living a good life means living a connected life,
Yeah.
right? Connected truly to the people around you, right? In
Yeah.
your relationships, connected to nature, right? Our first home, where we come from, connected to ourselves, right?
Hmm.
Feeling grounded within self, meditating, and all those things. A good life is a connected one.
And taking control of it, right? Not letting outside um, factors control how you feel or how you live your life. So taking
Mhm.
that responsibility, like you said. Yeah. Look at that. We sorted out all of life problems. We got it
Yeah,
figured out,
exactly.
Amir.
World peace right here on the podcast.
No, not at all. It's interesting though, and there's always, like I said, it's a subjective thing. Maybe it's different for everybody, but there are these. It seems like as we're talking here, it does seem like there are some things that kind of you can come back to, at least as a base place to start, right? Yeah, it's so interesting. We could talk about this forever, but we're just kind of go over the same thing. So
Mhm.
it feels like we're kind of coming to a close, and I think that's a fine place to end. Do you have any closing thoughts before we end it here, Amir?
I'd say to y'all who are listening, go out there and do something about this, like don't just listen to this conversation and then just, put it back in your pocket and then continue to live life the way that you've always lived it. There's no better time to make a change than now. Go be present, look around you right now. Don't be distracted. Life is happening right now, right in front of you,
Yeah.
right? Everything that you're looking for, it's right underneath your nose. So go be present wherever you are
And here's
and live your
something
life.
here's something that I've been this is kind of my motto for 2022. I'll explain it in a second, but it's think less, do more. And not do more in the sense that do more so you burn yourself out, don't stop and give yourself breaks. Just don't analyze things so much. Don't think about it so much. Just experience stuff. And that kind of summarizes everything we're talking about here. So I'm not just talking to all the listeners. I'm not just talking to Amir. I'm talking to myself. But I mean, I feel inspired. I don't know how you feel. Like to go. I want to go
Oh, I
do
feel
something tonight.
great.
I want to go catch the sunset. I think it's already gone. But maybe I'll watch a sunset video. It doesn't count, but it's close enough.
Close enough. You'll be good. I'll FaceTime you. I think the sun should be setting here in like just a little bit.
There you go. Perfect. Amir, where can they find you on the interwebs if they want to check out what you're up to?
Actually, you can find me everywhere at Ameer Corro, AmeerCorro, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. That's where I'm mainly at. If you like my philosophical musings, hit me up on Twitter at Ameer Corro, AmeerCorro. Or if you like long form content, hit me up on YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube. I highly recommend it. Everybody, if you like this, you got to watch his YouTube channel. It's so good. He inspired me to start my YouTube channel, which, by the way, you probably didn't know if you're listening. I had a YouTube channel before, but I'm putting new stuff up on it. So I'll have links to all that below. But yeah, thanks, Amir.
It's so good.
You're so good.
Check out his YouTube channel.
This is exciting. I'm glad you're here and we were able to have this chat. Thanks everybody for listening. Keep loving life, and we'll see you next time. If you enjoyed this episode and want to support the show, make sure to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Visit us on Instagram and TikTok at Let's Talk About Life Pod, and for more information, head on over to harrisonkingofficial.com/podcast. Now it's time for you to get out there and have a deep, meaningful conversation in your own life.